Hey guys, my name is Janelle if you're new here, and if you're not, welcome back. It's good to see you again. I have been a minimalist now for almost 6 years. It's gonna be my minimalist anniversary in a couple months here. But these are, I think, about 8 tips that I really wish I knew before I got started. These tips I think would have saved me from making a lot of mistakes when I get started, so I'm excited to share them with you, so hopefully you don't have to do the same things. I'm so sorry. They've literally been cutting grass all day, if you can hear them. I apologize. So number 1, if you focus on the things, you might be missing the point. The number doesn't matter, and while it can be interesting to count the number of things you have and how many things you downsize by, it doesn't really matter if you have 100 or 100,000 things, and the counting is kind of time consuming. So unless you find it super interesting, don't bother with counting. It's not the focus. The point of downsizing and having less stuff is so you feel more comfortable, you have a lot more freedom in your life, you feel like you're living on purpose and that your things aren't holding you back from living life. Minimalism should be a tool that serves you, and it should not be the end goal in itself. The benefits, like having better headspace, doing less laundry, having more freedom, are all kind of like the end goals, so you can do what you really love in life. The second thing is that minimalism does not have to be extreme. You don't even have to have an end goal of being a minimalist to be inspired and take a few things and thoughts and inspiration away from it. And honestly, I would recommend taking it a little bit slow if you can, especially for things you're undecided about. It's better to wait a couple of weeks or even a couple of months. If you need to, then get rid of it when you're really ready, then risk getting rid of it too soon and possibly regretting it. The end goal isn't to have nothing or near to nothing. The end goal is to have only what you need, love, what adds values to your life, and what makes you feel like you're living on purpose. There are a couple exceptions to this if you're moving soon and you kind of need to declutter fast because you've decided you're not taking your things with you or putting them into storage, or if you're like me where you're just holding on to a lot of stuff basically since childhood and you hadn't gotten rid of any of it, and then you realize none of it was quality or of any value to your life, you just had it for the sake of having it. So when I first started minimalism, I got rid of like half of everything I owned in a week and a half. Number 3, minimalism does not have to look the same for everybody. Again, to the sterile environment that a lot of people associate with minimalism, does not have to be like that. You can still have your band posters, you can have a boho look, you can have whatever sense of style or fashion and decor that you want. Just the idea is to have less of it, to have less clutter in that space. And it doesn't have to fit into that very standard minimalist aesthetic that you would see if you search minimalism on Pinterest. And everyone's life is going to look different, and minimalism is going to look different for you if you decide to kind of do this lifestyle throughout different phases of your life. It looked a lot different for me when I was a student versus how it's going to look for me in a couple of months when I'm basically a nomad and a traveling nurse. It's going to look different for someone who's a grandmother who's worried about like having her family clean out her house when she's like on her deathbed. And it's going to look different for like a student or a person with disabilities or an artist or someone who needs a lot of things to do the job that they have. And that's okay. Not every single area of your life might fit under the term of minimalism. So just do it for the areas that it makes sense for. The next thing that I wish I knew is that there's a lot of judgment about minimalism, or there's people who think you're not minimalist enough if you share your lifestyle very publicly the way I do here on YouTube. And also there's a lot of people who over associate with that word. Minimalism doesn't have to be, and I don't think it necessarily should be, your full identity if it's something that you do. Minimalism is a tool, it's a habit, it's kind of a way of life, it's not life itself. I'm gonna have to make another video about this, but the minimalist mindset is kind of everything to me, and that's kind of what really changed my life. Having a more minimal dwelling space is awesome, but once you get into this mindset of curating what you decide to keep in your life, that's what's really life-changing, and that's what kind of sold me on this way of living probably until I die. So I remember when I started minimalism and I was telling my friends and family about it, nobody knew what that word was, and I had to explain it in detail, and even then they were just like, what? I don't understand. And now almost everyone I know knows what that word means, and not because of me. And since Marie Kondo and the life-changing magic of tidying up, it's a pretty well-known thing now, and it's becoming very trendy and mass-produced and mainstream. And so obviously there's going to be people and companies that are trying to make it trendy and capitalize off of it and sell you something in some way, shape, or form. So this isn't necessarily always wrong or a bad thing, but just know that someone might not have a completely pure motive by using the word minimalism and something that they're talking about. It's kind of almost like minimalist cultural appropriation, if I could say that. So if someone's trying to sell you like the minimalist version of a candle, or this minimalist bedding, or minimal this or minimal that, maybe just think twice about it. I don't even know what point I'm on anymore, so I'm just gonna read this one off my laptop because I'm not gonna remember all of these words. But my next point is minimalism goes well with other words like intentional living, zero waste, simple living, consumer conscious, ethical, cheap, or frugal. And minimalism pairs really well with all of those words, but just know that they are a little bit different and you can combine those things the way you want. But just because someone is a minimalist doesn't mean they're also frugal. They could be living very luxuriously and lavishly. And just because someone's a minimalist doesn't mean they practice zero waste or they're not shopping ethically all the time. So if the word minimalism doesn't spark joy for you, use a different word. That's totally okay. My definition of minimalism is living with what you need, with what you love, living on purpose, and you can do that regardless if you have a very nice budget or a broke AF budget like I did when I started. And then my last point for this video is that above having kind of a safe and comfortable housing situation, food to eat, clothes that don't make you feel embarrassed, and whatever tools or things you need to do your hobbies and your passions, having anything more than that doesn't contribute to your happiness. If anything, it's really the opposite. More excess, more problems. I've gained a lot of self-awareness through minimalism, and I find it really interesting how every time the space I live in starts to feel empty, or I start to have like some emptiness going on in my life emotionally for whatever reason, or stress, the first thing I always turn towards is shopping and filling up that space with some type of material thing. Even after living like this for almost 6 years, I still feel like a lot of the things that I buy could be considered a mistake, and I don't keep a lot of things super long term over past 3 years or so. A part of that is because of my lifestyle, but overall I need way less than I actually think I need to be happy, and I think that's the same for a lot of people. My next statement I'm still completely learning on, I'm not perfect at this by any means, but I thought it's still worth sharing, is that the curating of the things that I keep and the stuff that I own is teaching me how we constantly as humans are trying to define ourselves by the things that we own and not by who we are on the inside. By being kind of over aware of the things that I own and my relationship with my stuff, especially since I am known as a minimalist on the internet, is really showing me how we as humans really try to identify ourselves by the things that we own and not things outside of the physical universe. And if that was too spiritual for you, it's okay. My very last tip is that if you are a lazy person and you're easily overstimulated, you're sensitive to your environment and clutter and over hectic schedules and busyness and all of those terrible things, minimalism is like the best life hack you can kind of give yourself. It doesn't cure everything, but it gives you so much more room to work out those things and create the space and the time and the need to kind of give yourself self-care and discipline and healthy habits and all of that. With less stuff, you have less frills and fuss to maintain, and so you have way more headspace, mental clarity, physical space to exist and be. You start to cut out habits and commitments that you don't need and people who aren't really important to you. And it's just great if you're lazy or just don't really like doing things you don't want to do. So yeah, that is it. Thank you guys for watching this video. Let me know what you think of it. Click subscribe if you're new here or you just haven't done that yet and you want to watch more videos from me. It would mean a lot. Give me a like and tell me one thing down below if you've been doing minimalism that you wish you knew before you got started. If you want, you can join the Real With Less Facebook group. It's a space that I made for you guys just to kind of share your thoughts, your journeys, your struggles, your questions about minimalism with some other people who are also interested in intentional living and having a more real life with less stuff. You guys will see from me soon. Thank you for watching. Bye.